Before we begin with the video, I just want to thank Nintendo Switch Amino for sponsoring today's episode. Amino is a great network of communities for virtually any topic in existence, full of friendly people who love the same things you're into. It's available to download for free on your mobile devices, and you can see just a few of the wide range of Amino communities available on screen now. Going along well with today's video is the Nintendo Switch Amino, which holds overwhelmingly positive reviews on the App Store. Here you'll be able to connect with other Nintendo Switch fans and start discussions, catch up on news, take part in polls and share videos, memes and more. There's also fun quizzes and lots of other cool things to do. For instance, here was me earlier commenting in one of the chat rooms on a retro Game Boy advert somebody shared. If you're a fan of Nintendo, you should really take at least a few seconds to check it out for yourself by clicking on the link at the top of the description. For all Nintendo conversations, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, there's no place quite like Amino. Light guns have been a popular video game accessory ever since the first home video game system, the Magnavox Odyssey, was released back in the early 70s. An add-on for the Odyssey was released called Shooting Gallery, and this is cited as the first ever video game light gun. As well as containing the realistic looking rifle, Shooting Gallery provided players with 4 new light gun games they could play on their TVs at home: Shootout, Shooting Gallery, Prehistoric Safari and Dogfight. The add-on proved to be quite popular and left a lasting impression on the blossoming video game industry. The market would soon see an influx of light gun games and accessories both in arcades and on home devices. However, none would be so popular as Nintendo's offering for the NES. The Zapper, as it was known in Western markets, was released in North America in 1985 and originally sported a grey, futuristic appearance. The light gun was compatible with NES games such as Duck Hunt and Wild Gunman and has become an iconic part of pop culture. But did you know that the accessory had a very different design over in its home country of Japan? Whilst Western gamers will either remember the gun as a grey ray gun like device or its later redesign which swapped out the grey colour scheme for an orange coat of paint, Japanese gamers will remember a much more realistic looking device. The Zapper in Japan was simply called the gun and was based on a traditional revolver weapon. The device was dark black with a brown handle and it looked very realistic. This isn't the only example of a light gun being made less realistic outside of Japan. The majority of guns produced following the late 80s were given bright colour schemes and other toy-like alterations. For instance, the Sega Saturn's Virtue Gun, or the Stunner as it's known in North America, was released in Japan with a dark black colour scheme. This was changed for US and European markets though, with the US receiving a red version and Europe a blue version. This brings up the question of why these changes were made. Were they simply Western marketing decisions or is there something deeper behind it? Now, as mentioned, prior to the late 80s, light guns were much more realistic, such as the Magnavox Odyssey's Shooting Gallery. However, following a growing concern in the United States that these weapons resemble real weapons too much, a rise of accidental deaths from police caused by imitation firearms, as well as an increase in crime being committed with fake weapons, a lot of pressure was put on the US government to regulate them. This led to laws being created in 1989 under the Code of Federal Regulations Title 15, Subtitle B, Chapter 2, Subchapter H, Part 272, marking of toy, lookalike and imitation firearms. The regulation specified here applies to not just video game light guns but most imitation weapons. This is also the reason why many toy gun retailers will often place disclaimers stating that all guns are sold with an orange tip and that removing it will be punishable by law. The exact requirements specified by law are as follows: either A blaze orange or orange colour brighter than that specified by the federal standard colour number, solid plug permanently affixed to the muzzle end of the barrel as an integral part of the entire device and recessed no more than 6mm from the muzzle end of the barrel. B a blaze orange or orange colour brighter than that specified by the federal standard colour number, marking permanently affixed to the exterior surface of the barrel, covering the circumference of the barrel from the muzzle end for a depth of at least 6mm. C construction of the device entirely of transparent or translucent materials, which permits unmistakable observation of the device's complete contents. Or D coloration of the entire exterior surface of the device in white, bright red, bright orange, bright yellow, bright green, bright blue, bright pink or bright purple, either singly or as the predominant colour in combination with other colours in any pattern. This seems to be the reason why the NES Zapper was later redesigned from its original grey design to the later orange model. As for why it was initially grey and futuristic rather than Japan's black revolver style, this was likely something that Nintendo decided to do themselves due to the differences in culture between the West and Japan, as well as their commitment to try and keep their brand as family friendly as possible in the West. It wasn't just the Zapper that would be toned down in later models. The Sega Master System's Light Phaser was originally released in entirely black. This was later redesigned so that the light gun had a bright orange tip. Curiously, the original all-black light phaser would be much later used to hold a woman hostage in Brazil in 2009. The elderly woman was released safe and well after 10 hours of negotiations. It's not just light guns either. Most fake weapons were affected by this law, including devices such as the Super Soaker water pistols. It's interesting to take a look at how different the Super Soaker catalogs were from 1987 and prior and then following. In 1987, the catalog was full of realistic looking designs such as these. That's all changed in later years though, with them all being made extremely colourful and toy-like. Bringing things back to video game light guns, one of the latest to be toned down outside of Japan is Namco's Gun Kong 3, which was released overseas in bright orange, whilst the Japanese version was pure black. In fact, the Gun Kong 1 and Gun Kong 2 were also released in Japan in black. The US version of the Gun Kong 1, however, was painted grey with an orange muzzle, whilst the European version was also grey but didn't have the orange tip. The US version of the Gun Kong 2 though was completely orange, and the European version was blue. Important to point out is that you will occasionally be able to find light guns from third parties that don't meet these US regulations, although these could potentially be found to be breaching US law. These regulations are still in effect today, and despite the decrease in popularity of light gun games, as well as certain issues they have with modern day TVs, this is something you may want to keep in mind when it comes to any possible future releases. What do you think of these regulations, and do you prefer the US Zapper design or the Japanese one? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and until next time, thank you for watching.